Iran-Afghanistan border, and we have built that connection from two places called Zaranj and Dilaram, which will actually connect it to the Central Asia. So that gives us.
It's a transit point, yeah.
So that is, I mean, this whole project, plus around the port, they are going to develop a kind of a free trade area for helping Afghanistan's trade. So we have also said that we will invest in that. Now all this needs a lot of. The Chinese have also made a bid for almost $1 billion. So now, in a sense, things are up for grabs. We have to be there, and we have to be quicker. We have an old relationship with Iran. Hopefully, we can leverage it. So that is on the oil and gas. Second is, Iran is, of course, as they say traditionally, your neighbor's neighbor is your friend. So I mean, Iran is Pakistan's neighbor. It's also majority Shia. So again, this is one area where our interests coincide, and particularly since Balochistan is there.
Right.
So that is. Third is, of course, maybe it will ease the transit of Indian trade that goes through what's called the North-South corridor, which is from the port of Bandar Abbas, which it goes up to the railway line and it connects to the Central Asian system all the way to Moscow. So that is again another. So there are going to be, immediately what will happen is two negative points. One is that we owe Iran $6 billion of debts which we have to pay in dollars for oil supplied, part of which we regulated in in Indian rupees. But now what happens to those rupees? Now against those rupees, we have been sending Iran, because nobody else would do, basmati rice and a lot of food products and other products. Now of course, that may either fall or may increase. It depends on how creatively we can work at this, because even if we go, I mean, Iran will insist on getting dollars now, but if we can also see whether we can keep a parallel channel which is rupee based. I mean, if China can do it for their renminbi with a lot of this thing, despite there being a dollar, why can't we look at it? I mean, it may not happen, but I think we need to really think with alacrity, with a great amount of clarity and vision, and we need to think fast.
One of the things that also has cropped up as a result of this deal with Iran is that there is a view that says that Iran is now emboldened, and this may heighten the regional competition between the two heavyweights, that is Saudi Arabia, which is really leading the Sunni arc, and Iran. And we are seeing that in Yemen, we are seeing that in other parts of the Middle East. Now, what could this hold for Middle East in terms of strategic stability?
Well, it's I think a larger problem. What is going on in the Middle East right now is what might be best described manthan chalu hai tithe. Everything is in flux. So there has been a Cold War, an ideological, a religious ideological Cold War between Saudi Arabia and Iran for quite some time now. It all started with this Arab Spring story from 2010, definitely. And the manifestations of that war, the outward manifestation of the Cold War, is what's happening with the Iranians supporting the Assad regime and the Sunni countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey supporting the opposing groups who want to depose them, and they're all Sunni groups, including the Islamic State. They have been funding, and Al-Qaeda and Jabhat al-Nusra and all these radical. So same thing in Yemen, because the Houthis are Zaidi Shias, but supposed to be more closer to Sunnis, but anyway they are. So Saudi Arabia has very cleverly taken the example of the Americans when they set up a coalition of the willing against Saddam Hussein in 1991. Now they have had, of course, a coalition of like-minded Sunni countries, and they have been bombing the Houthis in Yemen. Then you see in Lebanon the sort of the conflict which is going on in Syria has already spilled the border across to Lebanon, because Lebanon also has a very fractured polity. There are 1/3 are Shia who were always underprivileged, which they are not now. They are politically extremely empowered. Then 1/3 are Sunnis and 1/3 are Christians or Maronites. It's the Roman Catholic rite, but they follow slightly different. So, we are having, what we have there is a confessional democracy, and that is why this conflict has very easily spread across. So, there is, and of course, Iran supports the Hezbollah, whose raison d'etre, reason for being still in existence is that there is a small part of the border between Israel and Lebanon, which the UN says the entire border is demarcated, but actually that small part is not. Because according to the 1967 line, which is basically the thumb, the benchmark, that is where all the water of the Golan collects, and Israel is sitting on that. So that's why they say we continue to fight to liberate that, and that is their justification. So Iran is involved there. So you are having this, and in Baghdad, of course, you have a Shia majority government. There is still a difference in Iraq between, I mean, I think the Iraqis still consider themselves Arabs first and Shias next, but nevertheless, there is a big influence. So this is what is going on there, and the latest development, which is also a little interesting and also kind of frightening for the region, is that long-standing adversaries, Saudi Arabia and Israel, have got together for different reasons to oppose Iran. Israel, because of the bomb that Iran they think will have, and in fact their view is that this agreement is actually going to hasten it. And Saudi Arabia, with yet another manifestation of the old sectarian struggle, which is actually, so the whole place is just, and all this, the septic focus of all this is the Islamic State.
Absolutely.
And that, and you see how they have been able to obliterate the border, the old border between Iraq and Syria. They have been able to do a lot of things, and in fact take, whether we like it or not, they have taken a lot of steps to establish a Islamic fundamentalist state, which will be the first such state on the Mediterranean. So it has now gone, it's not just that their effect goes to our side, it has gone to Europe. Today all these migration that is taking place in this Mediterranean Sea, and you see news reports of people dying and drowning and all that, and these are all who? These are all where Islamic fundamentalism has gone down to sub-Saharan Africa, to Mali, to Niger, to all these places, and all these people are actually crowding into places like Libya, and basically mainly Libya, because there is no governance in these countries. So the gatekeeper is not there. So these people are all going, the only thing they see which is stable is Europe, and I don't know how long in this circumstances. So really it's like a septic focus, and every trend that you have is actually all around the Mediterranean, the southern, the eastern, and add to all this the financial problem that the world is having. Greece is again the septic focus of that. It has had and could have long-term impact on the financial stability of a number of countries. That, as far as India is concerned, will be a function of how much of euro-dollar loans we have been raising. I know that our corporate sector has raised a lot of euro-dollar loans because the rate of interest there is lower. The loans they get here, the rate of interest is high. So many of them are actually raising loans in Europe and paying off the loans here.
Okay.
My figure is around $138 billion. Who's going to pay that? Right. So it's a huge problem. We cannot even predict what future there will be. But what we need to look at from India's side is that this religious instability, we have to see that we ensure that it doesn't come in to India. We have, it's already reached Pakistan. In Pakistan itself, the state of Pakistan is under attack from the Taliban branch in Pakistan, from radical Islamists. So I think the situation is as I said, it's a manthan. काय होईल पुढे, पण आपल्याला म्हणजे आपल्या सरकारला तर अगदी पाहावं लागेल की याचं काय डे टू डे काय करावं लागेल आपल्याच बाजूने हे पाहणं खूप जरुरी आहे. कारण आपल्याला असं स्टँड keeping these problems at arm's length will not do. Whether we like it or not, we have the second largest Muslim community in the world. We have a problem of trying to increase our growth rate. We have so many problems, all of which will be impacted by what's going on there. That's what I
Maybe
think.
just before we conclude, maybe I'll just take a short answer from you, because Israel-Palestine cannot be avoided. And our stated position with Israel, with Palestine, has always been that we support a free, sovereign Palestinian state. But Prime Minister Modi has also made relations with Israel a priority.
Yep.
He's already going to be traveling at some point in time this year. How do you see him balancing this Israel-Palestine thing? Very briefly.
Very briefly, I'll say this, that if you see what is happening, the Arabs themselves have undermined the possibility of an independent Palestine state. Number one, the Islamic State didn't go and support their Sunni brothers in Hamas against Israel. Instead, they go and fight there's a report, may not be confirmed, but there's a report that Saudi Arabia paid a huge amount of money as a sweetener for this alliance deal with Israel. There's also a report, which is not again confirmed, but that some of this money has been used for additional settlements. So I still think that our support to Palestine and an independent Palestine state must stay. But a point may be reached when we may want to see that can you be more holy than the Pope?
Absolutely.
If you know what I'm saying.
So we've had a wonderful conversation with Ambassador Abhayankar. A number of important topics have been covered, and I'm sure the most important element coming out of it is that this is a region which is important to India strategically, and India has to closely monitor it in its own national interests. So with this, we'll come to an end. Thank you, Ambassador Abhayankar, for being here, and thank you to the viewers of Prudent.